Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spider Squid 3D printed molds.com fishing video. This is now my second attempt at trying to record the voiceover for this video because I just realized I did not have my mic turned on when I was trying to do the last recording. So that is fantastic. Anyway, today we are going to be designing, 3D printing, fishing, and catching some fish with the Spider Squid, the latest and greatest mold available for you to purchase at 3dprintedmolds.com. As always, I will have the molds available for sale, but not only the molds themselves. Maybe you want to 3D print the molds yourself as well, so you can buy the CAD file and 3D print as many of these molds as you want. So the CAD files for this mold are available on my website as well, as with all my other molds. Anyway, let's talk about the spider squid. So the spider squid is going to be a creature bait, pretty much inspired by a skirted bass jig. And it really does look like a spider, ladies and gentlemen. I can verify that because when I was molding these and I had a handful of them sitting on the ground in my basement, and my girlfriend comes downstairs and talks to me for a little bit and sees one on the floor, and she thought it was a spider, and she was scared. She goes, "I don't like that. It looks like a spider." And I said, "I know. It's great, isn't it?" But these smallmouths in these rivers probably don't see a whole lot of spiders. To them, it probably looks more like a crayfish. But although they look like crayfish to these smallmouth, crayfish are crustaceans, spiders are arachnids. But what you may not know is that both crayfish and spiders are arthropods. Arthropods being the group of animals that don't have an internal skeleton, they have an exoskeleton. So the crayfish is more closely related to the spider than the spider is to the squid, which is a mollusk. This is to say that even though I am calling it the spider squid, the spider is more closely resembling the crayfish than it is a squid. Anyway, that's enough phylogeny for today. Let's talk about this CAD design. Here I am setting up all the datum sketch planes for my cross sections so I can have the arms taper down the length of them. That that taper is critical to get the type of action that I want, which is basically going to be those arms bending back as you pull the bait through the water. And the two larger curved arms are supposed to act like curly tail grub tails and kick as you pull it through the water as well. So here we got all of our sketch planes set up, datum planes set up, and we gotta go through and do all of our sketches for the circles. And we're gonna do that now. And as we are doing that, I have run out of things to talk about. So I am going to read the Wikipedia page for spider for the next couple minutes. Spider, or arachnia, are air-breathing arthropods that have 8 limbs, chelicerae with fangs, generally able to inject venom, and spinnerets that extrude silk. They are the largest order of arachnids and rank 7th in total species diversity among all order of organisms. Spiders are found worldwide on every continent except Antarctica and have become established in nearly every land habitat. As of November 2023, 51,673 spider species and 136 families have been recorded by taxonomists. However, there has been debate among scientists about how families should be classified, with over 20 different classifications proposed since 1900. Alright, let's check back in to see where we're at. Looks like we got our first leg done. Look at that. Alright, let's get back to Wikipedia. Anatomically, spiders as with all arachnids, differ from other arthropods in that their usual body segments are fused in two tagmata, the cephalothorax or prosoma and the opisthrosoma or abdomen, and joined by a small cylindrical pedicel. All right, that's enough of that. Okay, looks like we got our body and our legs formed. So it looks like we got our bait ready and we're ready to do the mold. And the 15 or so subscribers that I have already seen these parts of the videos, so I've gone ahead and skipped the arduous section of setting up the mold to do the cut, but here it is, the first 1/3 of our mold, and here is the second third of our mold for 2/3 total now complete. For those of you following along at home and know how to do fractions, that leaves the final 1/3 of the mold, which will be the bottom section. FreeCAD, for some reason, really bugged out here. Don't know why. Could not ultimately figure out why it was doing this as it was doing this. But I eventually just kept on playing with it until I got it to work, which is my standard MO for dealing with problems in FreeCAD. I believe I actually downloaded the most current version because I got stuck and it eventually worked. And because of all that, I actually forgot to take a couple videos of the molds printing and injecting the plastic. So here I am demolding the very first spider squid. And you will notice I goofed up. I did not clock the bottom section of the mold properly to the top, so it basically the legs got cut in half and twisted about 15 degrees, so there were a bunch of extra little half legs, and there was some flashing that needed trim, but it was still a fishable bait, so I wanted to go out and try it. And try it I did. I went down to the river, took my very first cast, and before I even had the camera turned on, I had my T-worm rigged on from the previous video, and I caught this smallmouth. Wasn't expecting it, just took a first cast, caught this little guy. If you want to see more about the T-worm, go ahead and check out that video. I eventually had to crush the barb on the hook to get him off because he took it so hard that he was fine. And with that, I grabbed my malformed spider squid lures and threw them on the hook. And I took off up the rapids, only being spared by my socks and thighs, which do a great job protecting my little footsies. I walked up to my regular spot in this part of the river. It's really just a creek, small creek, and did not have much luck here, quite honestly. But I kept on sticking it out, and I trudged up to the higher sections of this creek, hoping to catch some smallmouth. I normally don't go upstream this far. The larger fish seem to tend to hang out in this section of the creek where it dumps into the river near the mouth of the creek and the river. But there are still fish up in this next section, as you're about to see. Because when I got to this particular hole, it did not take long until this happened.
There's one. Got him out of the water. It counts. It counts.
And indeed it does count, but you know what, unfortunately, this next one does not.
Oh, he got off.
But that's okay, because I headed up a little bit further upstream, and then this happened.
That's a better one. Huh.
Crushing the barb on that hook really seemed to affect my hookup rate on this particular trip. Armed with the knowledge from my first trip, I went ahead and edited the arms of the spider squid up to hopefully give it a little bit better action. And I corrected the clocking of the bottom half of the mold back to the two top halves. Corrected that issue so it would actually form properly when you injected it. I also got some new filament, PET-CF, I wanted to try out, so I stole the settings from Bamboo Slicer and plugged them into Orca for that. So I threw together all my molds, melted up some plastic, and here you see I have two of the PET-CF molds and two regular PETG and two hydroworm molds I also wanted to cast up. The PET-CF printed really, really well. I was quite pleased with it. It's really great filament. And honestly, what I did just stealing the bamboo settings for the Soraya Tech on my Flash Forge worked really well. So here I am tearing apart the molds, and we're going to see how the delaminate, that was the only question in my mind, is how well was the lure going to stick? How well is it going to stick to the mold? And unfortunately, with the PET-CF filament, it did stick a little bit, and ended up tearing it some. It's not as bad as others I've had, but it did stick some. So I went ahead and tried a trick I've seen online and sprayed these molds with vegetable oil, canola oil, so they wouldn't stick the next time I gave them a shot. And let me tell you guys, that worked perfectly. That bottom half of the mold popped right off with that spray. With my assortment of lures made, I headed up to the big lake they call Gishigumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. I figured I would be fine in my kayak if I hung out close to shore and fished this rock wall, and I was hoping I would pick up a really nice smallmouth. This is definitely trickier than the normal lake, small lake, river fishing I do from the kayak. And I knew that the conditions on the lake can turn rather quickly, but I wanted to give it a shot anyway, particularly among this structure that I knew was here. I thought for sure I would pick at least something up off this pier. After all, it was a nice day, the lake was calm, and I thought I would be perfectly fine being out here on the big lake in the fished around this structure for a while, ended up not having much luck. Didn't have a single bite over here actually. I was kind of surprised by that. So I kept working the shoreline, and eventually I made a new friend, this loon. I believe it's a loon right there, look at him. There was also a guy in the background listening to Freebird by Leonard Skinner, one of the greatest rock bands of all time. About a mile and a half from my launch point, so I had to hurry up and get back to the launch point because let me tell you, these conditions on Lake Michigan turned in a second. They're perfectly calm, 50-foot waves rolling. There's a good chance if I hadn't seen this particular squid waves rolling, that I would take my kayak over. to another rock wall further down from the beach because I figured these rocks had to hold smallmouth. It got pretty deep pretty quick offshore here. Sitting this spot up, I was probably in about 15 feet of water right here. But hopefully luck was going to turn my way because I ran into a group of hippies who wished me. I don't know how well that came across on video. There was a group on a paddleboard. One paddleboard, two guys, two girls. And the one girl's like, I wish you positive vibes. So that was nice of her. I've noticed that when I have my camera on my hat, people talk to me more for some reason. Anyway, I drifted around this rocky stretch of the shoreline for a while and eventually headed back in. Didn't catch anything, didn't even have a bite out here. I probably kayaked 5 to 6 miles, so it was a bit of a trip. Overall, a good experience. But I was determined to catch a fish on my new and improved spider squid lure. So I headed back out to the river a couple days later where this happened.
Not a bad one. Not a bad one at all. Yeah, the colors on them. Look at him. Nice.
And I don't know who's caught on to it yet or not, but I'm actually using a new rod here. It's a St. Croix Icon 7-foot medium light fast action rod. This is a really nice rod. I'm quite enjoying. Anyway, next cast, this happened.
Part of one of the arms came off, but that's okay. All right. That's a better one. Back to back, look at that. Feisty guy. Feisty guy. There you go. On the spider squid. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, he sprayed a little bit of water in my mouth. But anyway, I waded up the river a little bit. This time we're actually in the river, not the creek. And then this happened.
Yeah, little guy. Little guy. Little guy means big guys over there. That's a better fish. That's a much better fish. What is that? Is that a catfish? That's a catfish. All right. Not what I was expecting.
Indeed not what I was expecting at all. Believe it or not, this is not the first time I've caught a catfish out of the river on my soft plastic baits. I've also done it on the baby squiggles lure. If you want to see more about baby squiggles and a picture of that catfish, you can visit my website, www.3dprintedmolds.com.
Let's see here. I might be able to... How are you hooked, Mr. Cat?
Some people say that you probably shouldn't lip catfish because they have teeth, but really, I've done it quite a bit and it's not that bad. The bigger ones could definitely tear up your thumb though, so be a little careful about that.
All right, that's different. Was not expecting you. There he goes.
After that, I still had some daylight left, so I decided to wade up to or walk up to a different section of the river I've never tried before. And then this happened.
Smaller one. Not a bad one. Not a bad one at all.
So 4 fish in a couple hours, definitely a good outing. Next day I went out to a different spot. I've caught a couple fish here before, but really not that many. I only had maybe an hour, so I went back up to the spot where I caught the catfish the day before, and this happened.
That feels like a smaller one. Not a bad one. Not a bad one. There he goes. He counts. Quick release.
A couple days later, trying to take advantage as much as the nice weather as we can, took a half day off of work, and then spent the remainder of that day on the river. Getting in close to Labor Day when I'm recording this, trying to take as much advantage of the summer as I can. So with that, I headed on down the river, down what could only be described as an absolute waterfall. Luckily, I had my and I was able to escape completely unharmed. However, that storm from Lake Michigan came back and I got caught in the middle of the rain. Lucky for me, the rain did not last long, and then this happened.
Ooh, that was a good one. That was a really good one. He spit it.
He spit it indeed. and that's just bad luck with the rain and then just missing a nice fish. Was not having good luck, to be quite honest, until this.
That's a good one. That's a real good one. Alright, buddy. Alright. Hey. Oh my god. That's a good one. That's a nice one. Not a bad one at all. Here. We'll get that in the shot there. And then we'll come back.
You can tell on that one that he had been caught before because his mouth had a scar on it. And I think I've actually caught that fish before on a squid tube, and you could see a picture of what I believe is the same fish on my website, www.3dprintedmolds.com. Anyway, couple 100 yards down the river, and then this happened.
This is a better one, I think. No, little one. Little guy. He swallowed it, though. How did you...
And here I just want to acknowledge that trying to, I guess, handle the fish while in the kayak and making sure you're not going to get swept down the current is pretty challenging. So just be mindful of that when I'm trying to take the fish off.
Alright.
So with that, I headed back down the river and then got snagged on the bottom. This is why I use braided line on a medium light, ultralight rods when I fish the rivers for smallmouth. I got 20-pound braid on here, so I can straighten that hook out and get my jig head free. However, even though I got my jig head free, it still ripped my bait in half, so I decided to throw on my tadpole lure to try to catch something else on a different lure. So I took off all that remains of my spider squid, shout out Phil Labonte, and straightened out that hook and threw on my tadpole lure for the duration of this trip, which was maybe a half mile down the river at this point. Did end up catching one on the tadpole. It was a smaller one, about the size of the last one on the river I caught about a minute ago in this video. I did not end up taking my phone out to take a picture or video because I didn't want to drop my phone in the river, so I don't have proof of it. Take that as you will. But as always, all of these molds and the CAD files themselves you see in this video are available at www.3dprintedmolds.com $5 for the print and mold itself, $5 for the CAD file for the mold. So you can go ahead and print as many of these molds as you want yourself. For the spider squid or any of the other lures I have, they're all available on my website. Would really encourage you to check them out there. Thank you so much. Hope to see you.